What's going on, guys? Hey, we are back, man. And listen, we're gonna do a different video today. I've gotten a lot of comments lately about my take or asking me what's happening with recent protests happening here in Ukraine for a couple different reasons, and also about the videos that are going viral of the forcible mobilization. Basically, the Ukrainian TTSK, which is like the the military police who are tasked with collecting military age males and bringing them to the recruitment center to sign a contract. These viral videos and what the deal is with all those. So, in this video, we're going to talk about the protests that are happening here in Ukraine and also the unrest with this forcible mobilization. Okay. All right, guys. So we're going to start with this little clip that I found on Telegram, basically showing what I'm talking about in regards to the forcible mobilization. Watch. Oh, there's no audio. I thought there might be, but here you can see these military police I'm talking about taking this military age male and trying to get him into the van to get him to the recruitment center. Now, this guy in the white shorts comes and tries to basically break it up and help the guy who was getting dragged into the van. And then you see another military policeman come and just basically bully him out of the way. Watch. Bam! And then he just basically blocks him out of the from getting in the way, all with a cigarette in his mouth. So Ukrainian. All right, so let's talk about this. And well, hold on. So I've got another one I want to show you guys real quick. This is public response to these types of events going viral, these types of videos going viral. Context, this is one of those military policemen right here. Everyone around him is a very angry crowd of Western Ukrainians in Lviv. And watch. All right, so let's go back and talk about it for a second. So again, ton of comments lately about what my take is on this forcible mobilization. And the truth is, and I've shared this in the past, but the truth is this is probably the ugliest part of this war. Um, this is an awful thing to watch. And I want to show you guys a personal experience that I had in a TTSK office, one of these military police offices. I was there with a group of guys, and we were getting our medical commission done to sign a contract to join Azov. And while we were there, they also have a room of the guys they basically pick up off the street, just like this. And what I've noticed, at least in my experience, oftentimes it's guys that are just blackout drunk. They pass out on the street. Tetsuka will come pick them up and basically tell them, hey, you're going to go to the military now. Yes, this is legal based on the laws passed by the government, especially in wartime and when there's martial law in place. So anyways, me and this group of foreigners are in one room. In the other room, there's a group of these guys that are being conscripted, basically. And one of them tries to make a break for it. And I had just noticed that there was some commotion in the other room. And I saw him basically wiggle away from the military policeman and start running down the hallway. And so I stepped in and basically knocked him down and helped drag him back into the room that he was in. And I was trying to tell him to calm down. Hey, relax, relax. And it basically had him like pinned down by his shoulders like this. And I looked in his face, man, and it was the most scared that I've ever seen a human being in my life. This guy was genuinely terrified. Not terrified of me, not terrified of the military police officers, but terrified that he was going to have to go to the front line. So that shook me a bit, dude. And I was like, God, like literally, I was like, I took my hands off of him and walked out of the room. I let the military police handle it. I was like, no, that freaked me out. So this is what I mean by it is absolutely the ugliest part of this war. It's heartbreaking to see this. Like this guy that's holding on to the fence, being dragged into the van. This is somebody's potentially father, son, uncle, whatever, right? It's heartbreaking. But here's the thing. So I looked up the statistics about basically, are they just pulling up to random people and throwing them in a van? No. They are pulling up to random people in the sense that they're pulling up to military age males. They get out and they ask them for documentation. They check their documentation. They see if they have a exemption to the military, if they have been basically ordered by the government to enlist in the military because the government will send out these basically these notices, and there's a large percentage of Ukrainian men who just dodge it. They're called draft dodgers, right? There's this is a global thing. Any large country with a large military that's had a draft before, there's always been draft dodgers. Um, so they will check, and if this person is basically on the run, they have been requested to join the military multiple times, they are a draft dodger. This is, and again, statistically, this is when the majority of the times you see them start to get forcibly yanked into the van because it is by law they have to go serve now, and the military police caught him. So now the military police can't just be like, all right, no, you're good. Yeah, go ahead. No, they got to get this guy to the recruitment center, um, as the law says states. So that is the statistically the majority of these forcible recruitments that we're seeing. Now, are they using excessive force in certain cases? I'm sure, man. I can almost guarantee there's just like in the U.S. or anywhere else. There's always going to be bad apples, like like bad actors. Maybe there's some douchebag Tetsuka military policemen, right? Just like there's some douchebag ICE agents or police officers in the US. But there's also, in my opinion, the overall majority are just guys doing their job. That's it. So, can it get overly aggressive? Yes, sure. I'm sure. But I do believe that these guys are just doing their job. And even though it's ugly, this is necessary for Ukraine to continue their fight against Russian aggression. So, one thing I do see that bugs me, right, is when we saw that video of all the protesters in Lviv. That is a massive group of military aged males who are clearly fit and strong enough to yank this guy around and destroy this car and flip over a vehicle. Why are they not fighting? Right? And I've had a lot of conflict with this since I've been in Ukraine, which has been over 3 years at this point. I've had a lot of conflict with this because I used to think like if you're a male, you need to fight for your country, you need to be there. And I looked at all these other like these guys on the street who were military age males and they weren't in uniform or they weren't that I could tell they had never been in the military. I looked at them just like, what are these guys doing, right? I judge them. Then I was like, after I had gone on my second deployment, I had realized not everybody is cut out to fight, right? And sometimes if people are forced into a fighting situation, that's when you'll see people cause issues for their team. Sometimes they end up offing themselves after a hard mission, which happens more often than you think. Um, Stuff like that. So I was kind of like 50-50 on it, on the whole situation of like everybody needs to fight. No, not all males need to fight. Um, but now I'm leaning more the other direction back towards everybody should be serving in some context. So there's this misconception that every single military uh, personnel in the Ukrainian military is on the front line fighting. No, there's so many different roles, logistics roles, supply roles, drone roles, drivers, gosh, you name it. They need a ton of desk jobs and stuff like that. So, for example, I met a couple people and they were late 30s or early 40s men, and they're not fighters, man, and they know that, but they also know that they need to help their country during wartime, so they enlisted and they do basically admin work for the Ukrainian military, and they're super good at it. Like their brain just works with this stuff, with numbers and lists and schedules and stuff like that. They're great at it, and they're contributing to the war effort a huge amount, right? I mean, like, comparably, but they're still contributing, just like somebody sitting in a trench shooting over to the Russians is contributing, in my opinion. So with this ideology, I'm again leaning towards all these people should be serving in some capacity, some context. There's people who there's Ukrainians who didn't want to join the military, but they still wanted to help, and they opened up these 3D printing farms, or they started helping with drone building. They learned how to solder these different parts of drones and different drone tech. There's so many ways to help, man, is my point. And for these people to just say, I'm not going to join the draft because I don't want to go to the front line and die. That's not realistic. If you get forcefully conscripted, like if you've been dodging the draft for the last 2 years and you get caught, yeah, odds are you'll probably end up in like some kind of a penal colony or a penal battalion, or in an infantry unit, right? Because once you get caught, you're no longer able to pick your job. When you volunteer for the military, you pick what you want to do. So, and it's not like the Russian military where you say, okay, I want to be a driver. And they say, okay, here's an AK and 3 mags, go assault that Ukrainian position. That's not how it is in the Ukrainian military. You say, hey, I want to be a driver. And then you go through training to be a driver, and then you become a driver in the military. So that's my take on it. Is the forcible conscription, recruitment, mobilization ugly? God, it's ugly, man. I hate it. Is it necessary? Yeah, it is. And there's a very large percentage of men in Ukraine that, I'll be honest, they they just don't, it's not even so much that they're scared, but they don't want to be involved with it. It's kind of like, hey, not my problem. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in the military. I don't want to help. I'd rather continue doing my stuff and partying at the clubs and, you know, hanging out with these chicks and doing stuff like that. But there is a large percentage of these types of people in Ukraine as well that I do believe should get snatched up, given a rifle, and told, hey, you're going to fight for this country. Because there's a lot of people, a massive amount of people, who did not want to do this. They are not fighters. And they paid the ultimate sacrifice because they believed and they knew it was their responsibility to defend their country, and they picked up they had no business being an infantryman. They were like a store clerk or something for the last 30 years. They picked up an AK and they're like, okay, I got to defend my country. There's so many people that did that. You owe it to those guys, you owe it to this country, you owe it to these people, right? If you are a military aged male who is capable of fighting, or serving. I'm sorry, not fighting, but serving, because you don't have to fight if you volunteer. You can do other jobs, like we explained. So that's my take on it, guys. I hope that kind of clears up a little bit of some of the confusion. Also, if you give everybody in the world, especially on this channel, knows how efficient and persuasive the Russian propaganda machine is. So if you give the Russian propaganda machine that you lob them a softball, like something like a video like that, where we see the military police forcefully recruiting people, the Russian propaganda machine is going to see that softball and just crank it out of the park. They're like, oh, perfect. We are going to spread this everywhere, make the Ukrainian military look like evil, evil Nazis and fascists who are stealing people off the street and then forcing them into terrible positions on the front line until they die. They're going to take that, they're going to take this information and pump it around as much as they can. So take that into consideration as well. Is it happening? Yes, we just saw it is, and there's a lot of videos like that. Um, is it the majority of mobilizations that's happening? Absolutely not. So keep that in mind. Now, the protests that are happening right now in larger cities like Kiev are specifically about the firing or removal of Mikhailo Fedorov, I believe is his name. I wrote it down. Fedorov. He is the defense minister of Ukraine. Basically, he has been credited with contemporizing or modernizing the Ukrainian military. He really, really pushed drones and drone tech early on and is regarded to be one of the big reasons that Ukraine has now this technological advance in drone technology over the enemy, over the Russians. Um, he's also one of the people who put the pay raise for Ukraine for soldiers in dangerous positions on the table. He's one of the people that said these guys need more money and started to make that happen. So, needless to say, the public, the Ukrainian people, really like Mikhailo Fedorov, the defense minister. And kind of out of the blue, Zelensky said he's being fired. He's being removed a couple of days ago. And now there's protests in Kiev called the cardboard protests because it's a bunch of people with cardboards, homemade cardboard signs, basically saying bring back Fedorov. Fedorov equals dead Russians, stuff like that. They like him. They know he has contributed an insurmountable amount of, or an inconceivable amount to the war effort in the defense of Ukraine. So I looked into it, right? And it all comes down to a basically a internal disagreement between Syrskyi and Fedorov. Syrskyi is the commander in chief of the armed forces. He is the top dog when it comes to the military in Ukraine. He is a big deal, and he has been extremely effective in this position. So you have a top dog like that, and then a top dog like the defense minister Fedorov, and they have been scrapping basically. And the main reasons, from what I can tell, doing some research, the main reasons they scrap is because Syrskyi is more kind of old school, boots on the ground, infantry work, get dirty, get it done, do it the hard way type military commander and has this kind of military ideology. While Fedorov is more like, okay, let's do drones and let's do unmanned ground vehicles and let's talk about cyber warfare and stuff like that. So they're kind of polar opposites of the military strategic spectrum, but you would think, you put these two together and you've got damn near a perfect war machine. But for whatever reason, they couldn't see eye to eye. And Zelensky ended up making a statement a while back and says, if these two can't figure it out, basically, if these two can't hash it out, I'll handle it for them. And and Zelensky handled it and got rid of Fedorov. So it's strange to me because of how out of the blue it felt, but I'm sure internally it wasn't out of the blue. It sounds like these guys have been scrapping for a long time, and Fedorov is on record for saying that he thinks Syrskyi should be removed from his position. So they've been going at it, right? Now, what I will say is, in my time in Ukraine and my time in the military in Ukraine, in like when I was in a recruitment role when we were starting as Azov's International Battalion, we were in the headquarters. We had an office there. I got to see a lot of the interworkings of military behind the scenes, right? And throughout my time in the military, I've got to experience it as well, from low levels up to higher levels. And there is there can be a massive clash of egos when you when in the military. Um, we, I don't want to get too deep into this because maybe this is just my experience and what I have seen in my time in Ukraine, but I have seen egos destroy entire military units. I have seen egos get people killed in Ukraine. Um, I have seen this bitter hatred for brothers in arms. They develop this resentment towards each other because of ego and power struggles, and he has this rank and he has this rank and he wants this rank and he doesn't think this one should have this rank, and it just gets super twisted, and it is a massive detriment to the military structure. So this is what I've seen, and this is the only military I've been in, granted, right? Um, so maybe it's like that in the U.S. military. I don't know. For all my U.S. vets, tell me if you get these power struggles and you get this kind of this toxicity in the military command chain or chain of command. I'm genuinely interested because it's definitely a thing here in Ukraine, and it should. And I believe this is proof that even at the tippity top levels between Fedorov and Sirski, it's happening, right? To the point where they can't work together, so they're going to remove Fedorov, which who knows what kind of detriment that'll have to the armed forces. Nobody will know, right? But potentially that is giving up Ukrainian lives, that is giving up Ukrainian land by removing such a pivotal asset to of the armed forces, such as Fedorov, and somebody in the military who seems to be an advocate of your common soldiers, somebody who says these infantrymen need to get paid more, these drone teams on the front line need to get paid more, these assaulters need to get paid more. Somebody who's going after it like that, to get removed from their position it hurts, man. It's scary, and it's probably scary for everybody still in the Ukrainian military, realizing, like, this defense minister who they felt like was in their corner is now being removed, and that's part of the reason you see the protests now. So that's kind of in a 25-minute nutshell what these two topics that I wanted to talk about, because these are definitely the most talked about non-combat related issues. Forcible recruitment, forcible mobilization, conscription, right? It's all the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And these current cardboard protests about Fedorov being removed from his position. So I find this stuff interesting. Because of the amount of comments that I've gotten recently about people saying, "Hey, just come on and give us your own take on stuff," right? This is why I wanted to do this. So let me know how you found this video, please. With that said, I love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.